Hello and welcome back to another MC Championship video. We finally have the date for the next MCC, so let's talk about it as well as everything we know so far about the upcoming event, including the date and other key information that you may well have missed. But first, a reminder that only a small percentage of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. And people, we are almost at 500 subscribers, and I'm sure we can reach that by the end of this year, so feel free to play your part and hit that red button. So, let's get to the point. Mark your calendars, for we have the date for the next Minecraft Championship, which is MCC 19. On Wednesday 24th November, the official MC Championship Twitter account tweeted, revealing the date for the final event of 2021, stating, "We'll be back in the Decision Dome on Saturday 11th December. This is incredible. Over 1.5 weeks after the previous event, MCC All-Stars, we finally have the date for the canon December event. A few things to unpack here. Firstly, and this is actually quite self-explanatory, but it must be addressed nonetheless, the date announcement tweet did not mention the specific time of day when the event will take place, but nonetheless, until we receive any further information, it is always safe to assume that MCC will always take place at 8 PM UK time on the day of the event. I say UK time because the UK has 2 time zones, but we are currently in Greenwich Mean Time or GMT. Remember to use a reliable time zone converter to find out when MCC will begin in your local area, for example 3 PM EST for some states in the USA. Secondly, this date announcement tweet is actually later than normal considering the proximity of the events. You see, the non-canon All-Stars event took place on Saturday 13th November, and as we now know, the canon MCC 19 event will take place on Saturday, December 11th, so about 4 weeks or roughly a month apart between these two events. Now, the thing is that in the past, the announcement for an event, which is set to take place roughly 1 month after the previous event, would happen around 1 week after that previous event has just passed. But this wasn't exactly the case here. The tweet was actually slightly later than expected. So whereas the date announcement would have been last weekend, so roughly 1 week after All-Stars, this time it was revealed on November 24th on a weekday. However, that thankfully does not affect the actual MCC 19 event date. However, we just happened to get the announcement just a tad bit later than normal. Finally, because MCC 19 will be almost halfway into December, it is guaranteed to be the last event of 2021, as the Twitter account mentioned earlier on. So that wraps up the segment of the video where we discuss the date for MCC 19. Exciting times ahead as we now discuss everything we know so far about MCC 19 other than the date which we already know about. So let's begin with the obvious. MCC 19 is a canon event that follows on from the canon MCC 18 in October and the non-canon All-Stars in November. Obviously, since MCC 19 will be in December, it can only mean one thing: a festive event for the winter holidays, particularly Christmas themed, just like MCC 13 last December. That therefore means we can expect the following: new festive team names, for example Red Rabbits becomes Red Reindeer, festive changes to the hub and all the games to reflect the colder weather and the snow. Also, the Sands of Time minigame might be renamed to Snows of Time as in MCC 13, unless it's removed this time, but more on that later. Also, expect yet another set of scoring changes to some games, because it seems as though many members of the Nox crew, the team behind MCC, are currently unhappy with some scoring systems, particularly to survival games, which I suggested in my previous video was the main reason it was removed for All-Stars. I found some screenshots on the MCC subreddit taken from the MCC Discord server of one of the admins called Elton discussing this matter in more depth. Bear in mind that he refers to scoring changes for All-Stars, however much of what he has to say is still applicable to MCC 19. Take a look at what was said. I can go into more detail on why scoring changed. We weren't happy with where it was in MCC 17. We didn't make changes for Rising, but we wanted to continue iterating in MCC 18. The MCC Rising coins were interesting, but they didn't fully solve the issue yet. You can still camp until the end and create another MCC 14/15, the one that had 30 plus players still alive at the end. Explaining scoring in update videos is difficult, people won't really get it. So the update video just mentions important changes to the aim of the scoring, and if your strategy depends on numbers, you should look at the site. The issue with SG before MCC 17 was that it was too spread out. It's the game with the highest spread in scoring, so it had to be toned down a little bit. There's a lot that can be changed about SG, but to get the full story, you need to be able to see what we have tried out. The testers that played SG a lot in the MCC 17 testing cycle can probably vouch for the fact that we had tons of different scoring systems, each with their own issues. We also have limited time to figure out scoring changes. We've been on a pretty tight schedule since MCC Pride, but really I can't comment more on this. I don't tweak scoring and I don't really understand the full impact of scoring changes. It's obvious here that he is referring specifically to the survival games minigame. However, he does later talk about scoring changes for other minigames. MCC Participant Dream has said in the past that he did not want there to be 10 games when only 8 would get played. Since, for example, if a player practices for a particular game a lot and then it doesn't get played in the event, that just isn't fun at all. Indeed, All Stars literally removed survival games. Straight up. My point, I really don't think we'll be back to 10 games as we saw in MCC's 16, 17 and 18. Perhaps we will only see 8 or 9 based on how Nox Crew will manage the individual scoring systems for each game and how they choose to tweak it. We might not even see survival games back this time, although there's a chance, we don't know for sure. While some people may rightly be upset about this prospect, I don't mind, since I think players should have a better indicator of what could and won't be played while maintaining the randomness factor with the coin multiplier, for example. And remember that the Nox Crew will cycle through games every time they decide what's going to be in the decision dome for each event. So it's not like one game is permanently getting removed, it just might be rotated out of the selection for a short while. Now, on a more cheerful note, it's time to discuss when the MCC 19 teams will be publicly released. In fact, the MCC Twitter date announcement tweet already addressed this, stating that teams will be announced this weekend. Not much to analyze here, no perceptive comments can be made to this, just that the MCC 19 teams will arrive this Saturday and Sunday, the 27th and 28th of November respectively. We're also expecting the festive themed team names to replace the standard team names for regular events. While some of these are subject to change, we are therefore expecting the MCC 13 team names, which are as follows: Red Reindeer, Coral Carolers, Yellow Yetis, Mint Mistletoes, Emerald Elves, Cyan Candy Canes, Teal Turkeys, Sapphire Santas, this is probably reserved for the Simmers, Purple Penguins, and Pink Presents. And that just about wraps up everything we know so far about MCC 19, although perhaps there are some smaller pieces of information scattered across the internet with further insight, so I suggest you take a look at some of those, particularly on the official MCC Discord server and subreddit. Information including confirmed players, since the participants themselves already know the teams, as well as details as to specific game changes, be that for scoring or just for decor. Well, I've been your host, I hope you found this video informative and enjoyable, and I'll catch you all in the next MCC video. See ya!